Could a Nazi shipwreck lying at the bottom of the Baltic Sea finally reveal the location of one of the world's greatest lost treasures?
We start thinking, my God, maybe it's something important.
Is there an unknown force capable of snapping ships clean in half and sinking them with no warning?
How can a ship just break into two pieces?
And who or what is responsible for a bizarre series of sea lion mutilations in the waters around Vancouver?
There was something, in my opinion, that did this deliberately.
The underwater realm is another dimension. It's a physically hostile place where dreams of promise can sink into darkness. I'm Jeremy Wade, and I'm searching the world to bring you the most iconic and baffling underwater mysteries known to science.
The vast majority of our ocean is unobserved, unmapped, and unexplored.
It's a dangerous frontier that swallows evidence.
You have nowhere to run.
Where unknown is normal and understanding is rare. Tales of lost treasure have captivated our imaginations for centuries, but few of these stories are as puzzling as the disappearance of the Amber Room. It's the height of World War II, and the Nazis steal a priceless masterpiece from the Soviet Union, a dazzling room made of amber, gemstones, and gold. When the brutal conflict comes to an end, all traces of this magnificent treasure are gone. But now, a fresh investigation by a team of divers suggests that the Amber Room's final resting place might be deep beneath the Baltic Sea. June 22nd, 1941. Adolf Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union begins. As they advance, the Nazis pillage gold, art, and other valuable treasure. High on Hitler's wish list is the Amber Room, located in Leningrad's Catherine Palace.
The Amber Room is often dubbed the eighth wonder of the world. Such was its absolute magnificence.
Made from huge panels containing over 6 tons of prehistoric amber, gold, and precious gemstones, this extravagant chamber is the envy of the world and is estimated to be worth up to $500 million in today's money. Once captured by the Nazis, the exquisite amber panels are ripped from the walls, placed into individual wooden crates, and transported overland from Leningrad to the port city of Königsberg. The tide of war turns, and by 1945, Königsberg is under siege and surrounded by the Soviets. What happens to the Amber Room during the onslaught is unknown. But when Soviet troops finally capture the city, all signs of it have vanished.
She disappeared and nobody knows what's happened. Where's the Amber Room?
That's the thing. We don't know. It's a mystery.
Many people believe this priceless treasure was destroyed during the fighting. But could the Amber Room have survived? Under the orders of Joseph Stalin, in 1946 the KGB launches a secret investigation.
The Amber Room is one of the great cultural treasures of Russia. The Germans stole it. The Russians wanted it back.
And they uncover a vital clue. A set of partially burnt letters emerge from the smouldering ruins of Königsberg. Dated January 12, 1945, they order the immediate evacuation of the treasure.
There's a very strong chance that the Amber Room could have survived the Second World War.
The search shifts to mainland Europe, deep into abandoned bunkers, caves and mines. But have we been looking for this lost treasure in the wrong place?
There have been numerous attempts to try and find the Amber Room on land, but very few underwater. The key thing here is to remember exactly where the Amber Room was being stored. It was in Königsberg.
The only way to leave Königsberg at this point in time was on a vessel going through the Baltic Sea.
What if the Amber Room never made it back to Germany? What if it was sunk en route?
Could this priceless treasure be hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be found on one of the Baltic Sea's many shipwrecks? To save the soldiers and civilians trapped by the advancing Soviets, the Germans launch a huge rescue mission, codenamed Operation Hannibal.
It was the biggest maritime evacuation ever.
Hundreds of ships crisscross the Baltic, running a gauntlet of brutal weather and Soviet submarine and air attacks. The Amber Room is an irreplaceable artifact, and very few ships can be trusted to carry it on this perilous journey. One of them is the Wilhelm Gustloff.
It was the pride of the Nazi merchant fleet. It was their big status cruise line.
Hitler's very own version of the Titanic, the Wilhelm Gustloff was designed to take Nazi passengers on luxury pleasure cruises. But with Germany losing the war, the ocean liner is sent to help with the evacuation. As German refugees pour on board, another cargo arrives at the dock.
It also picks up crates which are under armed guard.
And you have to ask yourself, why would you need armed guards if there isn't something incredibly valuable in those crates?
A rumor spreads, and some of the passengers on the ship suspect they hold the Amber Room. The Wilhelm Gustloff departs in a blistering winter snowstorm.
They do not expect any Russian attack during this terrible weather.
But the defenseless cruise liner isn't alone.
It's torpedoed by a Soviet submarine, and it sinks very quickly.
It was the beginning of huge disaster.
Most of the lifeboats are frozen solid to their fittings, triggering a calamity of catastrophic proportions.
This proves to be the greatest loss of life ever in maritime history. 9,500 people lost their lives.
The wreck of the Wilhelm Gustloff is the site of one of the greatest tragedies of World War II. But could it also be the final resting place of the Amber Room? The mission to find out begins in the 1960s, when Polish divers pinpoint the location of the wreck. But as the outline of the ship looms in front of them, something isn't right.
the strangest thing was that this supposedly unknown wreck, this undived wreck, had a lot of diving activity on it.
It appeared that there was much more post-war damage to it, that the vessel was destroyed, dynamited.
If the Amber Room was in the wreck, someone has beaten the Polish divers to it. The disappearance of the Amber Room is one of World War II's greatest unsolved mysteries. But when divers narrow down the search for this lost treasure to a shipwreck in the Baltic Sea, they find someone has beaten them to it.
Who got to the Wilhelm Gustaf first, and why did they ransack it?
Suspicion falls on the Soviets.
They are the Navy in the region who had the technology before the 1960s to actually do this kind of investigation.
Some people believe the Russians knew the Amber Room was on board and launched a secret mission to retrieve it. But if this was the case, why wouldn't they announce the rediscovery of this beloved national treasure?
Finding the Amber Room, if they had managed to find it, would have been a tremendous coup for the Soviet Union.
But there may be alternative explanations for the damage to the wreck.
And the important thing to remember is where the ship sank. It was in a very busy shipping lane, so it may well be they could have simply been trying to demolish it to open up the sea lane for safer passage for their own ships.
You blow it up. You take two vessels with chains and you drag it across the vessel to cut everything down to make sure that it does not act as an impediment to navigation or a hazard to navigation. Did the Russians go and take out the remains of the Amber Room? Or were they just doing navigation clearance activities?
A survivor's testimony emerging decades later suggests they may have recovered a different kind of Nazi treasure.
Rudi Langer, who is a survivor of the sinking of the ship and the radio operator, he came out in the 1980s and said, nope, sorry, there was no Amber Room. He said that those crates were being guarded because they were full of gold.
Could the Amber Room have actually been loaded into a different ship?
Have we been hunting in the wrong place all this time?
Now, a team of Polish researchers thinks this might be the case.
I'm absolutely sure they do not use Wilhelm Gustloff for this mission.
Led by Tomasz Stachura, the team has identified a standout alternative ship, the SS Karlsruhe. Records indicate this ship was heavily laden with up to 360 tons of cargo.
The Hannibal operation focused on civilian and on the soldiers, so it was not very common to take some cargo.
And there's another key detail that makes the Karlsruhe such an enticing candidate.
It was the very, very last ship to leave Königsberg before the Soviet forces arrived. So maybe in a panic, the Germans placed the Amber Room, the gold, the gems, the wealth on this last ship.
But the ship doesn't get far before it's spotted and attacked by Soviet torpedo bombers.
One aircraft bomb was sent directly to the Karlsruhe, and she sank in 3 minutes.
To find out what the Karlsruhe was carrying, Tomasz and his team first need to find its wreck.
So hunting these ships is not a quick process. It can take years.
To aid the search, they deploy a multi-beam echo sounder.
They create more of a three-dimensional image rather than a two-dimensional image of what's on the seabed. It's a pretty fantastic technology.
We were very lucky because we found a ship which was exactly in the same size. Oh my God, maybe we found Karlsruhe, yes?
But the only way for the team to know for sure is to dive the wreck themselves. But there's a problem. It lies 290 feet below the surface.
First of all, you have to drop line to the wreck, and then you start descent, and you must do it as fast as possible.
It's well beyond your average sport diver depth. You have to have special training to go that deep.
This is very dangerous for divers to work hard on this kind of depth.
It is, difficult diving conditions, especially that deep. I mean, that's close to, 8 atmospheres of normal pressure.
The extreme pressures Tomasz and his team will encounter means they need to spend over an hour decompressing on their return journey.
Very well-trained or equipped diver can spend maximum 30 minutes at the bottom. You have no time for emotion, no time to thinking. You work like you are working like Robocop. This is the moment when you start real diving, yes? If your dry suit is not perfect, if your heating system is not working well, and if your gas is not okay, so this is the moment when something bad can happen.
If there's an accident at that depth, it is more than serious. It truly can be deadly.
This is demanding time.
But once on the bottom, it becomes clear they've found the ship they're looking for.
If you dive in other wrecks, if you find some plate or some cup, you are lucky. Wow, find something. But when we found this wreck, and especially when we did first dive, we realized that we find something really important. This is like wreck paradise. We start to be absolutely sure that we found Karlsruhe. We start to see more and more details, and our eyes was bigger and bigger because we were absolutely surprised. I'm a diver 40 years, and I never ever saw so many artifacts, so many chests, so many trucks, motorcycles, guns.
But are there any signs of treasure on board?
We were convinced that maybe we can find 1 or 2 crates, but in one day we find 15 of them, 15.
It's seeing your presents on Christmas morning. You don't know what's in them, but you know there's something cool ready to be unwrapped.
Some of the crates have spilled open, giving a tantalizing glimpse of their contents. The divers can see what looks like the remains of canvas and frames.
If they've got very fine, expensive artwork on board the Karlsruhe, then maybe also that could be where the Amber Room was.
Tomasz and his team plan to return to the wreck of the SS Karlsruhe in the near future. With special permission from the Polish government, they plan to salvage some of the unopened crates. Their contents could reveal the location of the long-lost Amber Room and finally solve one of the greatest mysteries of World War II. It's 2020, and the picturesque beaches of Vancouver, Canada, are about to become the setting of a series of shocking discoveries. Over the course of just a few months, the remains of several sea lions are found. All their heads are missing, removed and separated from the rest of the body. Whatever is behind these brutal attacks remains at large. But can the growing list of suspects help solve these bizarre animal mutilations?
CTV News, Vancouver Island Report.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. A Steller sea lion has washed up on a beach near Campbell River without its head.
The recent reports of these grisly remains have gripped the local population. But it isn't the first time this has happened. Over the past 10 years, countless other headless sea lions have been found, dotted at different locations around the Vancouver area.
I cannot imagine the horror that must have been experienced to come upon a sea lion that has been decapitated on the beach.
Are all these deaths connected? Is there a sea lion serial killer on the loose?
More worrying still, whatever is happening to these sea lions appears to be spreading. And several seals have been found in a similar state. I'm no stranger to unexplained animal attacks. And I've spent many years on the trail of unknown killers that lurk beneath the surface. So far, this case has defied explanation. So I'm eager to hear first-hand evidence for myself. In 2016, Vancouver resident Dave Stewart is walking his dog on a local beach.
I'm back to it. I just found this on the beach. This seal's head's been completely sheared off, completely taken off. It almost looks fake in a way, but like, this is a real seal.
I've never seen anything like this, ever. It was fresh, like sushi. Blood was coming out of the neck, dripping out fresh. You can see this in the video.
Dave, are there any signs of what might have done this?
You can see really nothing disturbed in the sand, certainly not around the seal itself of drag marks or anything. It was just sitting there like it had been placed.
And can you tell me any details about the wounds around the neck?
So it was something, in my opinion, that did this deliberately. Not only does it look like it's been sliced, but in one section it looks like it's been gnawed at.
It seems the heads of these animals are being intentionally targeted and taken by something. Or someone.
Sea lions are huge animals. They can typically weigh over 2,500 pounds, and they can range up to 12 feet in length.
There aren't many other animals which can take them out.
But there is one leading suspect. Some people think these attacks could be the work of a known killer. When a series of decapitated sea lions are found on the beaches of Vancouver, Canada, the general public and law enforcement are equally baffled. Could a ferocious predator known to frequent these waters be responsible for these strange animal deaths?
Killer whales, also known as orcas, frequently attack other kinds of marine mammals.
It's been documented that they catch sea lions and sea lion pups and play with them. Literally, it looks like they're playing ocean volleyball. It could be forceful enough to cause literally a separation of some body parts.
But these highly intelligent hunters may have a more specific motive.
Killer whales will kill blue whales and fin whales and eat their tongues because they think they're tasty. And some killer whale got the taste for sea lion heads.
But are killer whales really to blame? Or are they just an easy scapegoat?
While killer whales are known to play with their food, there's no documented cases of killer whales actually ripping the heads off their sea lion prey.
The fact that these sea lions have simply been decapitated and none of their juicy blubber consumed leads me to think that it was not a natural predator such as sharks or killer whales.
With suspects thin on the ground, the case is in danger of going cold. But several of the sea lion carcasses hold an easily overlooked clue: what appear to be gunshot wounds.
Fishermen have an uneasy relationship with sea lions because they're competing with these sea lions for the same fish stock.
In recent years, stocks of wild salmon have plummeted in the Vancouver area. The reasons why are complex, but an overpopulation of sea lions is sometimes blamed as the cause.
They eat a lot of fish, they have a habit of breaking nets. This can all make local fishermen very upset.
And there have been documented cases where some fishermen have injured, shot, taken out sea lions, which is really unfortunate.
But if some fishermen are shooting these sea lions, why would their heads also be missing?
They're protected. They should not be harmed. Harming a sea lion is breaking the law.
The penalty for harming a sea lion in Canada is a massive fine of $500,000 or a potential 2-year jail sentence.
Fishermen could be shooting the sea lion in the head and then decapitating it to remove evidence of the fact that they shot the sea lion.
If you cut off the head, you of course remove the evidence of it having been shot and you create a mystery.
With mounting evidence that humans are behind Vancouver's decapitated sea lions, this decade-long mystery might finally be solved. And with citizens and law enforcement on high alert, hopefully it's only a matter of time before those responsible are brought to justice. In 2015, scientists are mapping the bottom of Lake Constance, Switzerland, with state-of-the-art sonar scanners when they detect an unexpected anomaly. Beneath the surface, they find 170 large stone mounds that form an incredible unbroken chain running for 6 miles parallel to the shore. No one knows who or what created this inexplicable formation of rocks, but can fresh scientific analysis shed new light on this megalithic mystery? The discovery of this strange configuration of underwater rocks in Lake Constance is soon picked up by the European press, who dub it the Swiss Stonehenge.
These are very strange piles of stone. They're 100 foot wide and 5 foot high.
Each pile is made up of thousands of individual large stones.
There are many, many of them, and they stretch 6 miles around the coast.
When archaeologists are confronted with an anomaly, the first thing we ask ourselves is this a man-made structure, or is this a natural formation?
So one reason for thinking these might just be natural arrangements of stone is that if you look at the total weight, you see 78,000 tons of rock.
If these stones had been put there by hand, then that would have taken an incredible effort.
What natural force could be capable of moving and assembling this formation?
Glaciers may appear static when you look at them from the outset, but they are in fact constantly moving.
As these huge walls of ice advance and retreat, they have the power to carve out valleys and move huge amounts of stone.
These stones can find themselves left behind when the glacier retreats.
20,000 years ago, glaciers covered a vast area of the Alps, including present-day Lake Constance. So could the Swiss Stonehenge have been formed by a glacier? To put this theory to the test, the mapping team turned more high-tech equipment on the underwater stones.
Scientists use GPR, or ground-penetrating radar, to survey the site. It gives them an idea of any structures that are below the surface.
The data it beams back reveals something totally unexpected. The Swiss Stonehenge sits well above the mineral deposits left by the retreating glacier, meaning these stone mounds were placed here thousands of years later and are man-made.
What on earth are they? It's a real mystery.
78,000 tons of stone are involved.
If it was man-made, it would be a monumental effort.
In 2019, archaeologists returned to the site with the mission of unlocking its secrets. If they find out when these structures were built, it might help reveal who made them and for what purpose. The team dig trenches and take core samples around the rocks, which they date back at the lab.
It would appear as though these enigmatic stone piles were placed there over 5,000 years ago.
These stone platforms date to the Neolithic, and they're actually older than Stonehenge itself.
When we're talking about the Neolithic period, they're doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things with giant rocks, and we can see that across Europe.
But the underwater location of these Stone Age structures makes them particularly unique, and their purpose all the more puzzling. Could the answer lie in the close proximity of the stone piles to the water's edge?
They do bear a striking resemblance to similar platforms in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland, and those platforms are village sites.
Known as crannogs, these artificial rock islands are believed to be the sites of ancient wooden houses.
This house was built on this lake because it provided them with a ready source of food and a ready source of safety.
But unlike the crannogs in Scotland, the Swiss mounds don't have any telltale signs of the bridges that would have been necessary to connect to dry land. Their absence opens the door to an entirely different possibility. What if these stone piles weren't built in water after all?
Lake levels go up and down. And actually, we know that during the Neolithic period, the lake levels would have been much lower than they are today.
So therefore, the stones could actually have been on dry land.
If they were built on dry land, what purpose could these rounded stone circles have served? Researchers have long speculated that other ancient sites have a hidden celestial meaning.
There's various arguments about the pyramids of Giza lining up with Orion, and of course Stonehenge is most famously associated with various star maps.
We know that Neolithic people were interested in the seasons and measuring these things.
Could the Swiss Stonehenge be some kind of star map or seasonal measuring tool? Turns out this long line of underwater stones appears to line up with the sunrise and sunset on the 21st of June. which happens to be the longest day of the year.
The stone formations discovered in Lake Constance are fascinating, and they remain a mystery. One theory states that they were designed to align to different solar phenomenon.
The stone piles do seem to line up with the sunrise and sunset on the 21st of June, the Northern Hemisphere's summer solstice.
Initial thoughts are, yes, these align. That's really exciting, we're seeing something. But actually, when they start surveying more and more of them, that pattern just disappears.
So, the Swiss Stonehenge doesn't match with the stars. But that doesn't mean its purpose wasn't aimed at the heavens.
In my opinion, the most likely explanation for these incredible stone piles is that there was some kind of monument to do with funerary rites or religion.
Throughout our entire history, humans have built magnificent monuments to mark death and our passage to the afterlife. But how might the Swiss Stonehenge have been used in this way?
We see quite a few megalithic structures dating to the Neolithic, and some across this region as well, which act as tombs.
But no bones or chambers have been found inside the stone piles. Could the remains of the dead have been placed on top of the rocks instead?
They may have actually been some sort of burial platform.
These mounds might have acted as altars for water burials, where bodies are placed on the rocks in shallow water and left to be decomposed by the lake.
It's a very complicated scenario, and we need to investigate more, because ultimately what this site is a mystery.
So the true purpose of the Swiss Stonehenge remains unknown, and some people believe we may never reveal its secrets. But similar searches of Switzerland's other alpine lakes are already taking place, and future discoveries may reveal more about this baffling underwater wonder. Each year, dozens of cargo ships crossing the world's oceans vanish for unknown reasons. Some of these vessels disappear so quickly they take all clues as to why they sank with them. But can a terrifying viral video shed new light on what's causing some ships to sink without trace? It's January 2021, and the MV Arvin is at anchor in the Black Sea, close to the northern coast of Turkey. As the cargo ship rides rough swells, disaster strikes.
This must be a truly, truly terrifying experience. The crew are on a ship that's been torn in two.
Mayday, mayday, this is not the rest of Arvin. Mayday, mayday. Arvin, help me, mayday.
There was no warning signs, and that to me was just like, holy cow, people are gonna die on this thing.
The ship sinks within a matter of minutes, disappearing beneath the waves in two pieces.
Only 6 of its 12 crew managed to be saved, managed to escape.
How in the heck can this happen? You know, this thing's made out of steel. It's, you know, welded, it's put together. What would break a ship?
The footage is chilling, but what causes this sudden and deadly disaster?
We know how dangerous the Black Sea can be at certain times of the year and with certain weather conditions.
The strong winds that sweep across the region are capable of whipping up waves as high as 60 feet. But in rough seas, it's not just a huge single wave that can pose a threat to ships.
As the ship travels through rough seas, you can get quite dynamic stresses being applied to the ship's hull.
The hull is actually bent here and there, depending on the power of the waves, depending on which way the waves are going.
A particularly dangerous scenario can unfold when the front and back ends of the ship are riding two different waves, leaving the weight at the center of the ships unsupported. This phenomenon is known as sagging, and in severe weather conditions, it's been known to seriously damage or even sink ships.
The question is, are the wave conditions alone enough to explain why the MV Arvin broke in two?
On the day it snaps in half, the Arvin is experiencing choppy conditions, but it's nothing out of the ordinary for the Black Sea.
This puts stress on the hull, but the ship's designed to take it.
Ships only get pushed beyond these limits in the most extreme weather, which has led some people to believe there could be more going on than meets the eye.
Did something below deck cause this disaster?
The contents of the ship, the cargo, and how it's been stowed, and the weight of the cargo, of course, as well, is also really important.
Is this ship transporting anything dangerous in its hold?
The MV Arvin is carrying urea, which is a granular substance, and it's not normally considered hazardous.
Urea is an inert and non-flammable product, often used as fertilizer. But even supposedly safe cargoes like this can turn deadly in the wrong conditions. When cargo ships are loaded, the weight needs to be distributed evenly. An unbalanced ship can list or tilt dangerously once at sea. And in worst-case scenarios, it can even capsize. But could an unstable cargo hold the power to rip a ship in two? Unlike container ships, which can have thousands of separate metal boxes, the Arvin is a bulk carrier.
MV Arvin had 4 separate holes to put their cargo in. It's dry bulk cargo.
Huge loose loads, such as grain or sand, are poured directly into the ship. A rare, poorly understood phenomenon can strike at sea that instantly transforms these safe, dry heaps of material into a deadly ship-sinking force.
If liquid or water is introduced into a dry bulk cargo, it can become semi-liquefied, basically turn into a mushy jelly or pudding, and start sliding around.
This is known as liquefaction. If small, coarse substances like sand contain moisture, with enough disturbance or vibration, the molecules can become energized and instantly change state. For ships at sea, this can lead to devastating consequences.
The liquefied cargo can then move around freely within the holds of the ship, which can wreak havoc with the ship's weight distribution.
Does the Arvin's cargo turn to liquid and slosh dangerously around inside the ship, causing a weight overload that snaps the vessel clean in two? For this to be the case, moisture must have found a way into its watertight cargo holds.
That vessel was old. It was almost 50 years old. They actually did an inspection on it, and they were complaining about the rust on the deck, the poor maintenance of the vessel.
Did water seep through the Arvind's rusty bulkheads, enter the cargo holds, and help trigger this disaster?
This vessel being as old as it was, I think had something to do with it.
The footage captured on the MV Arvind provides a rare, chilling glimpse of the final moments on board a doomed ship. Cargo liquefaction could have played a key role in this tragic event, and it's thought up to 10 cargo ships a year could be lost due to this poorly understood phenomenon. Footage like this is helping scientists and shipbuilders better understand its causes and consequences, and their urgent work could help prevent more disasters in the future.